Jerry Lewis, the comedian and filmmaker who was adored by many, disdained by others, but unquestionably a defining figure of American entertainment in the 20th century, died on Sunday morning at his home in Las Vegas. He was 91. His death was confirmed by his publicist, Candy Kazau. Mr. Lewis' new success in movies, on television, in nightclubs, on the Broadway stage and in the university lecture hall. His career had its ups and downs, but when it was at its zenith there were few stars any bigger. And he got there remarkably quickly. Barely out of his teens, he shot to fame shortly after World War II with a nightclub act in which the rakish, imperturbable Dean Martin crooned and the skinny, hyperactive Mr. Lewis capered around the stage, a dangerously volatile ID to Mr. Martin's supremely relaxed ego. After his break with Mr. Martin in 1956, Mr. Lewis went on to a successful solo career, eventually writing, producing and directing many of his own films. As a spokesman for the Muscular Dystrophy Association, Mr. Lewis raised vast sums for charity. As a filmmaker of great personal force and technical skill, he made many contributions to the industry, including the invention in 1960 of a device, the Video Assist, which allowed directors to review their work immediately on the set, still in common use. A mercurial personality who could flip from naked neediness to towering rage, Mr. Lewis seemed to contain multitudes, and he explored all of them. His ultimate object of contemplation was his own contradictory self, and he turned his obsession with fragmentation, discontinuity and the limits of language into a spectacle that enchanted children, disturbed adults and fascinated postmodernist critics. Jerry Lewis was born on March 16, 1926, in Newark. Most sources, including his 1982 autobiography, Jerry Lewis in Person, give his birth name as Joseph Levitch. But Sean Levy, author of the exhaustive 1996 biography King of Comedy: The Life and Art of Jerry Lewis, unearthed a birth record that gave his first name as Jerome. His parents, Danny and Ray Levitch, were entertainers, his father a song-and-dance man, his mother a pianist, who used the name Lewis when they appeared in small-time vaudeville and at Catskills resort hotels. The Levitches were frequently on the road and often left Joey, as he was called, in the care of Ray's mother and her sisters. The experience of being passed from home to home left Mr. Lewis with an enduring sense of insecurity and, as he observed, a desperate need for attention and affection. An often bored student at Union Avenue School in Irvington, New Jersey, he began organizing amateur shows with and for his classmates, while yearning to join his parents on tour. During the winter of 193,839, his father landed an extended engagement at the Hotel Arthur in Lakewood, New Jersey, and Joey was allowed to go along. Working with the daughter of the hotel's owners, he created a comedy act in which they lip-synced to popular recordings. By his 16th birthday, Joey had dropped out of Irvington High and was aggressively looking for work, having adopted the professional name Jerry Lewis to avoid confusion with the nightclub comic Joey Lewis. He performed his record act solo between features at movie theaters in northern New Jersey, and soon moved on to burlesque and vaudeville. In 1944, a 4F classification kept him out of the war. He was performing at the Downtown Theater in Detroit when he met Patty Palmer, a 23-year-old singer. 3 months later they were married, and on July 31, 1945, while Patty was living with Jerry's parents in Newark and he was performing at a Baltimore nightclub, she gave birth to the first of the couple's 6 sons, Gary, who in the 1960s had a series of hit records with his band Gary Lewis and the Playboys. The couple divorced in 1980. Between his first date with Ems. Palmer and the birth of his first son, Mr. Lewis had met Dean Martin, a promising young crooner from Steubenville, Ohio. Appearing on the same bill at the Glass Hat nightclub in Manhattan, the skinny kid from New Jersey was dazzled by the sleepy-eyed singer, who seemed to be everything he was not: handsome, self-assured and deeply, unshakably cool. When they found themselves on the same bill again at another Manhattan nightclub, the Havana, Madrid, in March 1946, they started fooling around in impromptu sessions after the evening's last show. Their antics earned the notice of Billboard magazine, whose reviewer wrote, "Martin and Lewis do an afterpiece that has all the makings of a sock act, Using showbiz slang for a successful show. Mr. Lewis must have remembered those words when he was booked that summer at the 500 Club in Atlantic City. When the singer on the program dropped out, he pushed the club's owner to hire Mr. Martin to fill the spot. Mr. Lewis and Mr. Martin cobbled together a routine based on their after-hours hijinks at the Havana, Madrid, with Mr. Lewis as a bumbling busboy who kept breaking